Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is a Hall of Forms discussion video. So, you are new to the channel, or this is your first time here. This is me just going over the Hall of Forms units, going to give you some sample builds, and give you my opinion on whether they're actually worth a Form of Soul or not. The short version of it, as with many of these videos, especially with Hall of Forms, is maybe. These units can potentially be pretty good addition to your roster, so watch the video through, check the timestamps below if you want to skip to a particular character, though if you watch the whole video through or give it a thumbs up, that does help quite a bit, so I do appreciate you for doing so. If you want to see me go through the thought process on how I actually go through this, I actually do it on Twitch, so the Twitch chat is right under me, and I go through the process of putting the builds together and my thoughts on these units, so if you want to go check out a VOD, or even drop by the streams, you'll see it live. But with that being said, this is the shorter version. I'm going to go through these units, and it's Hall of Forms time. The upcoming Hall of Forms, as seen by the notification over there, is Summer Lyn, Pent, Erk, and Brave Eliwood. These are, except Erk, are not really, they're actually worth potentially a Form of Soul if they're either someone you currently merged up or plan to potentially merge up or use in the future. And I'll go over why that is in a moment. Starting with Summer Lyn here. Now, Summer Lyn's stat spread, in my opinion, is quite outdated. Having a low attack stat is not that good in today's day and age, but Summer Lyn does have a couple of things going for her. The first thing is, of course, the preference weapon, which I'm not showing here. Her preference weapon has armor slaying on it and is due for a future refine sooner than later, actually. So if you're banking on a good refine for Summer Lyn in the future, that could be a Form of Soul worth on its own. IS tends to do this quite a bit with Hall of Forms options, where they give these units who are due for refine soon, and a lot of them get decent refines. So I do recommend, if you want to bank on a future refine, or you have like Form of Souls to gamble in a gacha game, of course, then that could be worth going for. What I've shown here on a sample build to the left is just some of the rarest or best skills you most likely would use if you do pick up Summer Lyn. So this is what I think is the ideal skills to pick up here. Not necessarily a build, but if you're going to be using Summer Lyn, I do think that defense is replaced, especially on a Bridal Catria comp. If you don't use her in a Bridal Catria comp, then Whitecap Bow, which is available off of GHB, off Summer Lyncia, is pretty solid again on defense, or potentially on AR offense, with Whitecap Bow to do some hit and run or PvE sweeper type strats. So the build I think would be best fitting her for defense would be something like this. With her preference weapon, armor slaying is still really good. I believe she also gets like $4 stats. If the enemy is at full HP, that doesn't really matter too much, but the future refine is pretty good. If you already have a copy of her somewhere in your barracks, or have her even potentially a few merges, then her best place is with a build like this, very premium stuff like Attack Speed Unity, Deadeye, Blue Feud, the SD Far Trace, which just came off of Senate Florina, would be really good on a Bridal Catria comp because armors are prominent. Far save is everywhere, and the biggest armor problems, of course, being like Senator Dune or Brave Hector being there, means that you could pick up Blue Feud and make Lyn have a decent shot against those matchups. If you don't want to use Attack Speed Unity, she actually has sturdy impact in her base kit, and that makes those matchups even better in her favor, potentially even surviving them. So Summer Lyn, not really meta relevant now, and there's definitely better options, but truthfully, the future refine could make her a decent pickup, or if you have her merged, or of course she's a favorite in some way, this is a decent consideration. But we're not going to spend too much time here. We're going to move on to Erk, who, yeah, right, Pent. And we're going to move on to Pent, who is definitely more interesting. So Pent has a better, more modern stat spread, and he has a decent base kit as well, coming with G-Duel, Lull, and Times Pulse. Now, the defining factor of Pent is his tome. His tome is a Times Pulse for every single caster tome unit. This is really, really, really powerful, including himself, by the way. Very powerful because a lot of units can't really get pulsed otherwise, so like really high infantry units may not benefit easily from infantry pulse, namely Cavs, Flyers, and Armors benefiting from this. Like if you had like Ninja Corin or Lysithea who get pulsed by Pent, that makes really good. So he's actually a solid consideration for something like a Cav line. If you dance him 7 slot off of like Legendary Azura or Harmonize Azura, he can get 3 movement and also kind of become a cav that way. So Pent is very flexible, very strong defense unit. Even by today's standards, I think he's a good defense unit. Most people probably foddered him for G-Dual Infantry 4 because he's like, I think the sole bearer of that. And you can't fodder a Forma unit, but he's also could use that pretty well. Now, the skills that are fairly rare or decent to make use of are going to be the ones shown here. So if you go through Hall of Forms, these are like the skills I'd recommend picking up. You could potentially pick up Speed, Defense, Tempo, I guess, in the B, but that's kind of a meme. I don't really think you should pick up a Tempo until the right tempo is available for that unit. Again, attack speed unity is really good. It's not necessarily super rare because Brave Marianne has it, but it's just very strong on defense. Like, a lot of units want unity on defense, and if their best place is to be used on defense, then you should definitely be picking up a unity. Alternatively, something like Sturdy Impact is good. Impacts are always solid on defense, especially combined with no follow-up, and that's what you're going to see here. The Madness Flask is the Fury Tome, and that is solid if you end up picking up like Fury 4, using a Fury Seal, and then maybe using him on offense as some sort of Wings of Mercy beacon where he just ends up in low HP through multiple combats. Though I don't feel that's too powerful on Pent, but it could be done as well. Now, if you use him on defense, Canto Control is great, plus his Tome accelerating other Tome users just makes him a solid addition on defense. So you could use him to deny these kind of PvE teams or stuff like Regan and Anima Season, for example, or just other Canto units in general with Canto Control. And as long as you're not necessarily frontlining him where he's completely exposed, or at least protected by far save or near save, then Canto Control is really good. And then you combine that with Ruptured Sky and his Tome, attack speed unity, no follow-up, attack speed form, whatever. If he's on a Bridal Catcher comp, he's going to want form. If he's on a cav line, then he probably wants something else. He might not even want unity, he might want just like impact as well. So it kind of depends where you use him, but this is something you could aim for, and he's just kind of a flexible defense unit that I think has a place, regardless of whether that's cav lines, Bridal Catcher, and of course offense, if you want to use him with Madness Flask, is also an alternative. Note he's also due for refine later in the future, but his tome is already really powerful, even by today's standards. So the fact that he will get refined and improve that tome even further puts him in a pretty solid place. Next up, and more unfortunately, is Erk, and I don't really have anything to say here. Really, Erk will just pretty much copy-paste what Pent's build is and try to accomplish the same thing as a red tome unit, I guess. The fact that he's mergeable is pretty nice. Again, I guess. But realistically, if you're taking Erk, he's probably a favorite of yours, or you're really looking in the very, very distant future when Erk gets his refine. And I'm talking like probably 2-3 years from now is when Erk finally gets refined. So by that time, there could just be better skills in the pool, and this Forma could just be kind of wasted. There's not really much I'm going to say here. Pent is just straight up the better option to pick up here than Erk is. Sorry, Erk fans. More interestingly, though, is Eliwood. And Eliwood is, as many of you know, I believe last year I covered him in the Brave Refines. He's still pretty solid, and he does have many places. If you're going to use Eliwood, he's going to find a lot of use in air offense, air defense, and potentially even Summoner Duels. So if you pick up the Forma here, you'll find a place for him. His attack is good, his speed is good, and his weapon, if you don't remember what it is basically speed-based damage reduction, and self-null follow-up, plus basically 10 dual stats. So it's pretty good. And if you're going to pick up rare skills for him in the Hall of Forms, Curtains is a must. I feel like Curtains is really good if you're going to use them in like Gale Force strategies, then that could be really good, especially with Wings of Mercy. But more importantly, with his preference weapon, he's going to be a solid counter to something like Medius and Note, as he has that Dragon effectiveness and Beast effectiveness on his weapon. The rarest stuff here is stuff like Assault Troop and Flowguard being on like Thor. And I know that the Flowguard effect has self-null follow-up, just like his preference weapon does, but it's still going to be a solid addition for something like defense, I feel, and potentially offense. But likely you want to source Trace off of somewhere else in the pool, low skills. Those are more common, and I think targeting the rarer stuff is the way to go. Assault Troop may not find too much use, and honestly, if you see something like Fatal Smoke, you may want to take that instead. So The way I do see a good usage of Eliwood is, of course, on defense. And if you run him with Ruptured Sky and he's Ice Lance, you run him with Flow Guard, potentially even Guard if you pick up something else like Trace in the B skill, give him or pick up Fatal Smoke, are all very good additions. He'll make a great anti-dragon, anti-beast unit. And by the way, this is very good if you consider that Brave Hector may not care about Eliwood, but Ascended Dune does care about Eliwood quite a bit, as again, he has that self-null follow-up effect. If you run him with Flow Guard or Guard, you could be denying the Ascended Dune special, which could result in a missed kill. Considering he has speed damage reduction, she probably will miss the kill anyways, and completely kill and shut down someone like Ascended Dune, meaning that his toughest matchups are going to be some sort of green armors instead, something like Gustav or Brave Edelgard, and Brave Edelgard could be due for Refine soon. So actually, I'm pretty sure she is. So there are some problem matchups for him, but generally speaking, he's a good addition to either defense or offense, and even Summoner Duels, where again, that weapon is just covering a lot of potential threats. So again, decent skills to pick up and decent overall lineup for Hall of Forms. I'm personally waiting for Radiant Dawn and Path of Radiance. I'm kind of looking forward to picking up like Petrine as a blue axe, as just like a flavor favorite pick, and also something like Canagus or Groom Raphael. Those are my anticipated stuff. Black Knight or Zelgius would be amazing, but I don't think they'll show up in Hall of Forms. And even something like Kajal and Awakening, I think I was discussing as a potential future Hall of Forms option. So if you guys are looking to save some Form of Souls, consider those as well. This basically covers my Hall of Forms thoughts, guys, on this lineup. Some decent additions, nothing too fancy. Upcoming videos I wanted to give you guys a heads up for should be FOD reviews of AR gameplay, or at least snippets of those gameplay, so you guys can see stuff like Naga or Altina perhaps, or even Brave Crom. I want to showcase some of the gameplay and not just all the theory, so look forward to that in the upcoming videos. Let me know what your thoughts are on these Hall of Forms in the comments below, and any potential unit you're looking forward to in the upcoming games. Thank you for watching as always. I want to thank my Patreons and supporters on Twitch, you guys on YouTube as well. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Love you all. Peace.